Welcome to this week's overview of Level B. Get ready as we dive into lessons 33 through 36. So last week's lessons were pretty exciting. You got into the hundreds, you did an enrichment lesson, or at least I hope you did. And if you haven't gone forth and tackled that yet, maybe you will seriously consider doing it over the summer or when you finish this level. It is really a great activity. It helps children to get a better grasp of place value. You're getting way up into the thousands. Anyway, we ended last week with the strategy, the 2-5 strategy. And guess what? We're going to continue more this week on the 2-5 strategy, and we're going to get ready to get the children to play a game called Corners, which happens to be probably one of the most fun games that I think RightStart has. So let's get started with what materials are you going to need this week? Starting off with the abacus, the worksheets, your math card game book, as well as the basic number deck, your abacus tiles, the regular tiles, and a bag. Now here I have a brown paper bag. If you have any kind of bag you can stick the tiles into so the child cannot see them, that will work. Your dry erase board, their math journal, and the corner cards. Those are new. We'll talk more about those when we get to the lesson. Lesson 33, more 2-5s strategy. This is a pretty cool lesson, I have to say. I just recently did this with my granddaughter. I don't remember them doing this in the first edition, so it's neat to see some of the newer things in the second edition. As a quick refresher for the next activity, I just want to go over the 2-5 strategy. So as we've done, let's say 6 plus 7. So 6 is 5 and 1, 7 is 5 and 2. You see the 5s for 10, 2 and the 1 for 3. So your answer is 10, 3, or 13. So just remember that. Remember, we use the 2-5 strategy when we're working with numbers 5 through 9. Well, we're going to do it a little bit differently this week. They're actually going to use their fingers. Now, they're not going to be counting. They're going to use their fingers for their strategy. Now, my granddaughter did struggle with this a little bit. If you have a child who struggles with this, it may take a little bit longer for them to grasp this concept, doing it with their fingers. But that's okay. You just persist. Let's say we're going to add 8 plus 7. Now we're not going to use the abacus. We're going to use our fingers. But when we do this, it's like our whole hand, right? It's a fist. It makes 5. And then we have 8. So remember, it's 5 and 3. 7 is 5 and 2. Now I'm holding my fingers this way just because I have my hand is sore, and so to try to do it the other way, it hurts. So just bear with me while I do this. So think about this. So our fist were the 5s. This is representing for 8, 5 and 3, 7 is 5 and 2. So now we know we have 10, and then we have 5 more for 15. I hope that makes sense. I thought it was pretty cool. We'll try one more. Let's say 5 plus 6. So we have our hands. This is 5. Each one means 5. 5 plus 6. So the 2 together make 10, and then I have the 1 for 11. Anyway, isn't that cool? They're going to be doing the same thing with their fingers and comparing it on the abacus. So that's another way to reinforce, especially for those children who may struggle a little bit with seeing the 5s on their fingers, all right? Because it is a pretty new concept. So the game at the end of this lesson is Addition War, and it is only used with the cards 5 through 10. So go through and get rid of all the other cards. Only use the basic number cards 5 through 10, because this is going to help the children work on the 2-5 strategy. And it says here to encourage the child to use the abacus or their fingers if they understand how to do that on their hands, but don't insist. So if they don't want to use the abacus or use their fingers, that is fine, as long as they understand and are able to get the correct answer. Now, if they're really struggling and they're not able to get the answer, then yes, like I tell my granddaughter, use the abacus, because I don't want her counting on her fingers. I want her to use the abacus for the strategies so she could see it. And that's what you want your children to do too. Lesson 34, adding 5 to a number. I think adding 5 to numbers is probably the funnest way to do your numbers. 5, 10, 15, 20, just kind of flows. But the way RightStart has wanted you to do it is to use the math way of saying your numbers. So you may not feel that it flows quite as easy. They're also going to use the abacus as they count by 5s. So we'll have 5, 10, 10, 5, 2, 10, 2, 10, 5, 3, 10, all the way till they get to 10, 10. Then they'll use this for the 100. They'll do it one more time until they get to 200. And then you get to do it all over again using the regular names. The game at the end of this lesson is where you're going to need either a brown paper bag or a container or some other bag where the child cannot see, but yet can reach their hand in to pull out one of the tiles. So you're only going to use the red, the blue, and the yellow, and they have points. So this is worth 5 points. A blue tile is worth 10 points, and a red tile is worth 0 points, no points. All the child is going to do is they're going to reach a hand into the bag, pull one out. Remember how many points this is? Maybe not, 10 points. So I say that you may want to put like a, just a second. You may want to get a piece of paper and you could put this, now you'd be laying this flat, so they'll see. The yellow is for 10 or 5, the blue is for 10, then the red is for 0. And you may just lay this down flat so you and your child can look at it as you play this game. The goal is to reach 100, and they'll be keeping score on the abacus, so they can only get there exactly. So if they get to 95 and they pull out a 10, they cannot get to 100. They have to pull out a 5, or vice versa. Maybe they're at 90. They have to pull out a 10, or 2 5s. So there's a couple options. Have fun playing. I think the kids really enjoy that, not knowing and reaching in and pulling out the tiles and getting to add. And you may find they may want to play this later on their own. Lesson 35 is partitioning 5, 10, and 15. This is where you can use your part whole circle set that's in the laminated, or not, well, it could be laminated. Mine is in a sheet protector. So either one. Or you could draw this on the dry erase board. Now in the lesson it says to do 2. You can do your 2, you can get 2 of these, or you can just use 1. But basically all the child is going to do is they're going to partition 5. So they're going to put 5 in the big circle. And then what are ways that we can make 5 with parts? And they're going to write it in their math journal. So it would be, you'll see, and you can see at the top of the right page how it will look in their journal. One of the questions it says, do we need to write, say they put 1 and 4. Do they need to do 4 and 1? So I'm going to do an example with you. We have 5 and our parts are 1 and 4. So in the math journal, they're going to write 5 equals 1 plus 4. And you'll ask them, well, do we need to write 4 and 1, or is it the same as 1 and 4? Go with their answer. If they say no, you're right. No, we don't need to. It's the same thing. Some children may feel that they need to write it. That's all right. Let them write it. Pretty soon they'll realize that it means the same thing. So on the second page where it's talking about partitioning 15, look at what is written on the journal. You see the 3 different ways you could partition 15. And then over in the teacher's explanation, I just think this is very interesting, and I want to make sure that you see this. It says that even though 5 plus 10 is not a fact, it will be needed for the corners activities. You're probably like, what? Not a fact? What do you mean? It's 10 plus 5. That's a fact. However, in arithmetic, the addition facts are adding numbers up to 9, plus 9. That's it. Once you get to 10, you're talking about a function of place value. So really, all you're doing with 10 is just combining a number with 10. So you have 10, you combine it with 5, you get 15, which, yeah, technically you could say that's adding, but in the math world, it's not. So thought that was kind of interesting. Want to make sure you're aware of it. Doesn't really affect anything in the lesson. It's just one of those interesting bits of information that we don't really realize until we're told. So the other activity on adding 15, make sure you realize that when the child is entering the numbers, like example, they have 20 on the abacus, and now they're going to enter 15 or 10-5. They need to use both hands so they move the number over at the same time. They're moving the 10 and the 5 over at the same time. Last lesson for this week, lesson 36 is corners, exercise without scoring. Notice the word corners is trademarked. This is a game that was made by Dr. Cotter. You use a special set of cards for this game. So you can see the colors on these cards. Green, red, black, and blue. But we're not really playing the game in this lesson. What this lesson is doing is helping the children learn how to score. So when the time comes for them to score themselves, they'll be able to do it. I want to focus more on the second page where it says the corners exercise game at the top. And as we're doing that, you'll understand better how to join your corners. Now here's the thing. There are 4 cards at the top. These are 4 specific cards that you need to find in your deck of cards. So like you have a nice little deck of cards. So you need to look for 4 specific cards, and those are listed on the top of that second page. Now, don't be like me. I didn't think about that. So when I went to go do the lesson with my granddaughter, I was like, oh, just a minute. I need to look for the cards. And so we spent like 5 minutes rummaging through looking for the cards. So just know, look for them ahead of time, have them ready, and so it'll just be easy peasy. Okay, so here are the cards. And if you notice, this right here is a 9. You can remember it because a 9 has a line. It kind of rhymes. The 6s do not. So here is an example of a 9 and a 6, so you can see. Now, why it gets confusing is because this is right side up, but if you're playing it like this and you look, you think, oh, that's a 9. Just remember, 9 has a line and 6 does not. So one of the things you're going to have your child do is they're going to match the colors with a fact that equals 5, 10, 15, or 20. And there's a couple different things we could do here. So I know you guys are probably already looking ahead and you already see some solutions. Now, I like to go for the biggest numbers. So I could do this because 10 and 10 make 20. I could do this down here because 7 and 3 make 10. And I could do 8 and 7 for 15. So we're not adding up the cards yet in this portion of our learning about the game of corners. And they will have to add these at some point, but we're not doing it today. What they do need to know is that that equals 20, that's 15, and that is 10. So let's try this again. And again, you can see these in your book, but I just think it's better to see the colors, how it works. So we have a 4 and a 1. Let me move this up here. Have room. Let me move these over. Here we go. We have 4 and 1 makes 5. Let's see. I have a red. Oh. 8 and 2 make 10. So that works. And then I have a couple options here. Look, I could do 7 and 3. Or I could do, no, I can't do that one. What was I thinking? I can do 7 and 3. Now, some of you, maybe you see this over here. Look at that. 10 and 10 make 20. 9 and 1 make 10. So you got a corner. Now, when we get to a real game, we'll talk more about what happens when you get to a corner. But right now, it doesn't matter. The goal is for the child to get comfortable finding matches with the colors that equal 5, 10, 15, or 20. Let me turn these back around. All right. Let's just say you do have a child that is struggling a little bit. And we're going to start with this one. They are allowed to use their abacus if they need to. But I like to ask them, you know, kind of, okay, do you have any of the black numbers that you add to 1 that can make 5, 10, 15, or 20? So this way they can focus on a specific one. And they could see, oh yes, this one will. But the beauty of this game is they're also having to see, okay, 8 plus 1, nope, that's not 10, or 5, 5 plus 1, nope, that doesn't work. We've made the 9 and 1 for 10, and now maybe the child is sitting there and they're really trying to figure it out. Say, well, look at the red 2. Do you have anything that you can make when added together can make 5, 10, 15, or 20? Or maybe if they don't notice, you know, look at the 10. Now the 10 is pretty easy, the 10 and the 10. So don't tell the child, oh, you have a 10, why don't you play it on the 10? No, 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 don't do that. You want to say, hey, you have a 10 over here. Can you play something on that 10 to equal 5, 10, 15, or 20? Now, we know it's not going to equal 5 or 10, but it's kind of a nice habit to get into because this game, that's the point of it, is to equal numbers of 5, 10, 15, or 20. Also, save these cards. These 4 cards, they're going to be used for the lesson in 37. We got another week done, and I'm really excited that you guys are getting your children started on learning how to play corners. It is such a fun family game. Next week, join me as we go over lessons 37 to 40. If you have any comments, any questions, any concerns, you can reach us at the information you see on the screen. Let me just say thank you to those that have contacted me with some emails and letting me know that this is encouraging them. It just makes me so happy because I'm talking into a camera. I'm talking into a camera, and sometimes it's hard to remember there's real people on the other side watching this. So thank you. I'm glad that this is helping you, and your emails encourage me. So it's kind of a win-win for both of us. So until next week.